Most people think the future changes because technology improves. That is not what actually changes lives. What changes lives is the psychological environment people wake up inside every morning. The invisible pressures shaping attention, identity, desire, fear, and self-worth before a single conscious decision is made. 2026 is not just another year. It is a threshold. You are stepping into a world where distraction is no longer accidental, where identity is no longer stable, where outrage is profitable, where comparison is constant, and where silence feels unnatural. A world where people are informed but disoriented, connected but isolated, stimulated but directionless. This matters because philosophy does not exist in a vacuum. It responds to conditions. Stoicism emerged in collapsing republics. Existentialism emerged after mass disillusionment. Buddhism emerged from the problem of suffering inside abundance. The philosophy you need now must respond to fragmentation. Most people feel tired, but they are not tired from effort. They are tired from constant psychological interruption. From being pulled in 10 directions without choosing any of them fully. From reacting all day and calling it living. In earlier eras, survival was physical. In modern life, survival is attentional. If you do not decide what matters, something else will decide for you. If you do not choose what deserves your energy, it will be extracted quietly. If you do not define yourself, you will be categorized. Transformation in 2026 begins with a single realization. Your inner world is under siege. Not violently. Subtly. Through notifications, narratives, incentives, and emotional hooks. Through endless opinions masquerading as urgency. Through pressure to perform identity rather than inhabit it. Most people respond by trying to optimize themselves inside this chaos. Better habits. Better routines. Better productivity. This is like rearranging furniture while the foundation cracks. Philosophy asks a deeper question. What kind of mind survives here without becoming brittle, anxious, or hollow? To answer that, you must first abandon a comforting illusion. That clarity comes from more information. It does not. We are not overwhelmed because we know too little. We are overwhelmed because we have no hierarchy of meaning. Everything screams at the same volume. Everything claims importance. Without an internal filter, the mind collapses into reactivity. This is why so many people feel lost despite having access to everything. They have access, but no axis. Philosophy gives you an axis. Not rules. Orientation. A way to decide what deserves seriousness and what deserves dismissal. What enters your inner life and what stays outside. What you engage with deeply and what you allow to pass without resistance. Without this, transformation is impossible. You will mistake movement for progress. Stimulation for growth. Busyness for purpose. The first transformation is not external. It is perceptual. You must begin seeing your life not as a series of events, but as a system. Inputs create states. States create behavior. Behavior creates outcomes. Most people try to change outcomes while feeding the same inputs. This never works. In 2026, the most dangerous input is not negativity. It is noise. Noise flattens meaning. It makes everything feel equally urgent and equally disposable. When everything feels important, nothing truly is. Philosophy teaches you to reintroduce weight into your life. Weight is seriousness. Slowness. Deliberate thought. The refusal to react instantly. The courage to sit with unanswered questions instead of filling silence with distraction. This is uncomfortable at first. Silence exposes internal chaos. Stillness reveals unresolved tension. When you stop reacting, you start noticing what you have been avoiding. Most people run from this moment. Transformation begins when you do not. There is a reason ancient philosophies emphasized solitude, reflection, and restraint. Not because they hated pleasure, but because they understood something we have forgotten. A fragmented mind cannot choose well. In 2026, choice will be the defining skill, not opportunity. Everyone will have options. The rare ability will be knowing which ones matter. This requires an internal hierarchy. What is worth suffering for? What is worth sacrificing? What is worth saying no to even when it feels good in the short term? Without this hierarchy, freedom becomes paralysis. Many people feel anxious not because their life is hard, but because it is unstructured internally. Too many desires pulling in opposite directions. Too many values borrowed rather than chosen. Philosophy begins where imitation ends. You cannot outsource meaning. You cannot crowdsource values. You cannot inherit a sense of purpose intact. You must build it. This is where responsibility enters, not as moral pressure, but as psychological liberation. The moment you accept that no one else can organize your inner life for you, something shifts. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop waiting to be certain. You stop waiting for permission. You begin where you are. Not with grand plans, but with attention. What you attend to shapes who you become. Repeated attention becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. This is not motivational language. It is neurological reality. The mind rewires around what it repeatedly engages with. If you feed it chaos, it becomes chaotic. If you feed it resentment, it becomes defensive. If you feed it clarity, it becomes discerning. Transformation in 2026 begins with reclaiming attention from everything that benefits from your confusion. This does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means engaging with it deliberately. The philosophical life is not quiet because it is weak. It is quiet because it is focused. There is a moment in every serious life where a person realizes something quietly devastating. No explanation will save them. You can explain your childhood. You can explain your trauma. You can explain the economy, your environment, your education, your relationships, your mental health. All of these explanations may be true. Some of them may be deeply unfair. None of them will change your life on their own. Modern culture has become very good at explanation and very bad at transformation. We name wounds, diagnose patterns, contextualize behavior, and then stop there, as if understanding were the same thing as movement. Philosophy draws a hard line here. Understanding without responsibility becomes stagnation. Responsibility is not blame. This distinction matters more than people realize. Blame looks backward and looks for fault. Responsibility looks forward and looks for leverage. Blame asks who caused this. Responsibility asks what can I do with what exists. The reason responsibility feels heavy to people is because they confuse it with guilt. Guilt collapses energy. Responsibility generates it. When you accept that your life is your task, regardless of how it began, you stop wasting energy arguing with reality. Reality does not negotiate. The world you are entering in 2026 will reward those who move without needing fairness as a prerequisite. This sounds harsh until you see the alternative. Waiting for fairness delays action. Delayed action compounds regret. Most people remain stuck not because they are incapable, but because they are entangled in justification. They need their pain to be acknowledged before they move. They need someone else to validate that their suffering was real. Philosophy does not deny suffering. It simply refuses to let suffering become an identity. You can honor what hurt you without building your home there. Responsibility begins when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What kind of person does this require me to become?" This shift is not emotional. It is existential. It means you accept that no one owes you clarity. No one owes you closure. No one owes you motivation. If your life is to change, it will change because you chose to act before certainty arrived. This is terrifying at first. Certainty feels safe. Responsibility feels exposed. When you drop excuses, you have nothing to hide behind. Your failures belong to you. Your potential belongs to you. Your time belongs to you. So does your regret. But this exposure is also where power returns. Excuses protect the ego at the cost of the future. Responsibility threatens the ego and frees the future. This is why people cling to narratives that explain why change is impossible. The system is rigged. The timing is wrong. The odds are stacked. These stories feel intelligent. They are often partially true. They are also paralyzing. Philosophy is ruthless about this. It asks one question again and again. Given the conditions that exist, what is the most honest next step? Not the perfect step. Not the dramatic step. The honest one. Responsibility narrows your focus. It removes the fantasy of total control and replaces it with partial agency. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control effort. You cannot control others, but you can control boundaries. You cannot control the past, but you can control interpretation. This is enough. Most transformation happens when people stop trying to control everything and start controlling the few things that actually matter. Your routines. Your inputs. Your standards. Your reactions. These are not small things. They are the architecture of your life. Philosophy does not deny suffering. It simply refuses to let suffering become an identity. You can honor what hurt you without building your home there. Responsibility begins when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What kind of person does this require me to become?" This shift is not emotional. It is existential. It means you accept that no one owes you clarity. No one owes you closure. No one owes you motivation. If your life is to change, it will change because you chose to act before certainty arrived. This is terrifying at first. Certainty feels safe. Responsibility feels exposed. When you drop excuses, you have nothing to hide behind. Your failures belong to you. Your potential belongs to you. Your time belongs to you. In 2026, responsibility will separate those who drift from those who build. Drift feels lighter in the moment. Build feels heavier. Drift accumulates anxiety. Build accumulates confidence. Confidence does not come from belief in yourself. It comes from evidence that you can be trusted by yourself. Every time you keep a small promise, your internal trust grows. Every time you break one, it erodes. Over time, this internal trust becomes more important than external validation. People who lack self-trust chase reassurance. People who have it move quietly. Responsibility also changes how you experience emotion. Instead of asking, "Why do I feel this way?" you begin asking, "What is this feeling asking me to do or stop doing?" Emotions become information, not commands. Anxiety points to misalignment. Anger points to violated boundaries. Sadness points to loss that needs to be acknowledged. None of these emotions require impulsive action. They require interpretation. This is the difference between emotional maturity and emotional suppression. You do not numb emotion. You translate it. Responsibility teaches you to pause between stimulus and response. That pause is where freedom lives. Without it, you are programma. This is why responsibility is dangerous to systems that profit from impulsivity. A responsible person does not outrage easily. Does not buy easily. Does not conform easily. Does not panic easily. They choose. Choosing is slower than reacting, but it is infinitely more powerful. As you move into this year, understand this clearly. No one is coming to organize your inner world. No one is coming to discipline your attention. No one is coming to rescue your unused potential. This is not abandonment. It is an invitation. The invitation to become the kind of person who does not need saving. If responsibility is the foundation of transformation, attention is the terrain on which everything is decided. You can have good values, strong intentions, and clear goals, and still lose your life to distraction. Not because you are weak, but because your attention is being competed for by systems far more sophisticated than your willpower. This is the part most people underestimate. They think distraction is a personal flaw, a lack of discipline, a motivation issue. It is not. Distraction is structural. The modern world is built to fragment attention because fragmented attention is profitable. It is easier to sell to, easier to influence, easier to keep reactive. A calm, focused mind does not scroll endlessly, does not outrage easily, does not buy impulsively. So the environment is optimized against depth. Philosophy becomes practical here. It stops being abstract and becomes defensive. Because if you do not protect your attention, nothing else in this guide will matter. Attention is not just focus. It is the gateway to identity. What you repeatedly attend to becomes familiar. What becomes familiar feels normal. What feels normal shapes belief. Belief shapes action. This is how people become versions of themselves they never consciously chose. Every outrage you consume, every comparison you internalize, every shallow stimulus you indulge without awareness leaves a trace. Individually harmless. Collectively decisive. Philosophy asks you to see this clearly, without drama. The question is not, how do I focus harder? The question is, what deserves access to my mind? This requires discernment, not deprivation. Most people approach attention by trying to quit things. Quit social media. Quit news. Quit distractions. This rarely works long-term because it treats the symptom, not the philosophy underneath. If you do not decide what your attention is for, you will always drift back to whatever is easiest. Attention must be claimed in service of something meaningful. This is why ancient philosophers emphasized contemplation. Not because they rejected life, but because they understood that a mind without direction becomes captive. In 2026, attention is currency. Not metaphorically. Literally. Your time, focus, and emotional reactions are tracked, measured, and monetized. This does not require paranoia to acknowledge. It requires literacy. A literate person does not rage against the system. They navigate it deliberately. This means learning to tolerate boredom again. Boredom is not a flaw. It is a gateway. It is the moment when the mind, deprived of constant stimulation, begins to surface deeper questions. Who am I avoiding becoming? What am I postponing? What do I actually want? Most people silence these questions immediately. The philosophical life invites them. This is why reclaiming attention feels uncomfortable at first. You are withdrawing from constant sedation. The mind protests. It reaches for relief. If you persist, something changes. Your thoughts slow down. Your emotions stabilize. You begin to notice patterns instead of reacting to triggers. This is power. Attention also determines your emotional climate. What you consume daily sets your baseline. A diet of outrage produces irritability. A diet of comparison produces insecurity. A diet of noise produces restlessness. No affirmation can override this. Transformation requires ruthless honesty about inputs. Not moral judgment. Measurement. What do you expose yourself to first thing in the morning? What tone does it set? What stories dominate your internal dialogue by night? Most people want a better life without changing what they feed their mind. This is like wanting a stronger body without changing diet. Philosophy is not gentle here. If you want clarity, you must reduce noise. If you want depth, you must accept some boredom. If you want direction, you must withdraw from constant reaction. This does not mean disengaging from reality. It means choosing when and how you engage. A disciplined mind does not check everything. It schedules engagement. It limits exposure. It protects peak attention for what matters most. This is not productivity culture. It is self-respect. In 2026, the rarest people will not be the most informed, but the most focused. Not because they know everything, but because they know what to ignore. This selectivity shapes character. A person who controls attention controls their emotional state. A person who controls emotional state controls behavior. A person who controls behavior controls trajectory. This is why attention is the hidden battlefield. Lose it, and no amount of philosophy will save you. Win it, and transformation becomes almost inevitable. Part 4, The Inner Code, Living Without Needing Motivation. Most people wait to feel ready before they act. They wait for motivation, for confidence, for clarity, for the right emotional weather. When those feelings do not arrive, they interpret the delay as a sign. Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe this is not who I am. Philosophy cuts through this illusion. Readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision. Motivation is unreliable because it is emotional. Emotions fluctuate. They respond to sleep, stress, novelty, approval, and fatigue. If your life depends on motivation, your life will be inconsistent. This is why serious transformation requires something colder, quieter, and far more stable. An inner code. An inner code is not a list of goals. It is not a vision board. It is a small set of principles you live by regardless of mood. It tells you how you act when no one is watching, when energy is low, when progress feels invisible. Ancient philosophies understood this deeply. The Stoics did not train for ideal days. They trained for difficult ones. Their question was not how do I feel today, but what does my character require of me now? This shift changes everything. When you live by an inner code, you stop negotiating with yourself constantly. You remove friction. Decisions become simpler because you are no longer asking what you feel like doing. You are asking what aligns with who you have decided to be. Identity replaces motivation. This is why codes must be chosen carefully. Not aspirational slogans, but operational rules. How do I speak when I am angry? How do I act when I am tired? How do I treat people who cannot benefit me? How do I respond to failure? These moments define you far more than moments of inspiration. Most people collapse here because they confuse freedom with flexibility. They want to keep all options open. They want to decide later. They want to adapt endlessly. What they do not realize is that endless flexibility erodes character. A code gives shape. It introduces constraint. It removes the exhausting task of reinventing yourself every day. In 2026, this will matter more than ever. The world will reward adaptability, but punish those without an internal anchor. Without a code, adaptability becomes shapelessness. You bend, but never stand. Philosophy teaches you to bind yourself deliberately. Not with rigid dogma, but with chosen commitments. The paradox is this. The more you limit yourself internally, the more powerful you become externally. When your actions are predictable to yourself, you move with confidence. You trust your responses. You do not second-guess every step. This self-trust is visible. People feel it. They may not know why, but they sense coherence. An inner code also protects you from self-betrayal. Most people are not ruined by others. They are ruined by repeated small betrayals of their own standards. Each time you say you will do something and do not, something erodes. Not motivation. Integrity. Integrity is not moral purity. It is alignment between intention and action. When integrity is low, anxiety rises. When integrity is high, even difficulty feels cleaner. Philosophy does not promise ease. It promises coherence. This is why codes must be lived, not announced. They are private, quiet, often boring. Their power comes from repetition, not recognition. A code also tells you when to rest. Rest is not indulgence when it serves recovery. It becomes indulgence when it serves avoidance. Your code draws that line for you. Without it, you rationalize everything. This is where discipline becomes humane rather than brutal. You are not punishing yourself. You are honoring a structure you chose. In 2026, people will chase hacks, shortcuts, and peak states. The grounded few will build codes. Those codes will carry them through boredom, doubt, and obscurity. This is how long arcs are built. There is a quiet lie at the center of modern life. that comfort is the same as safety. It is not. Comfort numbs feedback. It dulls sensitivity to misalignment. It makes slow decay feel normal. Most people do not fail dramatically. They drift comfortably into lives they did not consciously choose. Philosophy has always treated discomfort differently than modern culture does. Not as an enemy, but as a signal. As information. As a teacher. This does not mean glorifying pain. It means understanding its function. Discomfort appears whenever you are growing beyond a previous version of yourself. Muscles tear slightly to become stronger. Skills feel awkward before they feel natural. New identities feel unstable before they feel embodied. The mistake people make is assuming discomfort means something is wrong. Often, it means something is working. In 2026, the world will offer endless ways to escape discomfort. Endless entertainment. Endless distraction. Endless ways to smooth the edges of experience. This creates a generation that is emotionally fragile not because they are weak, but because they are untrained. Resilience is not inherited. It is practiced. Voluntary suffering is the practice of choosing small, controlled discomforts to avoid larger, uncontrolled ones later. This idea appears in Stoicism, Buddhism, and even modern psychology under different names. You choose effort so you are not forced into panic. You choose discipline so you are not crushed by chaos. You choose restraint so you are not ruled by impulse. This is not asceticism. It is foresight. Boredom is one of the most important discomforts to reclaim. Boredom is the space where depth grows. When stimulation is removed, the mind begins to wander inward. It confronts unresolved questions. It reorders priorities. It reveals what you have been avoiding. Most people treat boredom as a problem to solve. Philosophers treat it as a threshold to cross. If you cannot sit with boredom, you cannot sit with yourself. This is why so many people feel uneasy in silence. Silence reflects the inner state back at you without filters. Transformation requires this reflection. Voluntary suffering also builds self-respect. When you do something difficult by choice, you signal to yourself that you are capable of acting beyond immediate comfort. This changes how you interpret challenges. Instead of asking, "Can I handle this?" you begin asking, "What does this require?" This shift reduces anxiety. Anxiety thrives on perceived helplessness. Voluntary discomfort restores agency. There is also a moral dimension here. When you avoid all discomfort, you become dependent on circumstances being favorable. When they are not, you feel betrayed. Entitled. Angry. When you train yourself to endure discomfort, you meet reality with steadiness. Not stoicism as emotional numbness, but stoicism as emotional range without collapse. In 2026, many people will chase ease. Fewer will choose strength. Strength will compound. This does not mean a life of constant struggle. It means a life where difficulty does not feel like a personal attack. You choose challenges that matter. You reject suffering that is meaningless. There is a difference. Meaningful suffering builds. Meaningless suffering erodes. Philosophy helps you tell them apart. Most people think identity is something they discover. It is not. Identity is something you rehearse. You become who you repeatedly act as, not who you say you are, not who you hope to be, not who you were at your best once. Identity is behavioral memory. This is uncomfortable because it removes the romance of self-concept. It means your current identity is simply the residue of past choices. Not destiny. Not essence. Residue. This is also liberating. Because residues can be changed. The obstacle is the ego. Ego is not arrogance. It is the psychological structure that protects continuity. It keeps your self-image intact. It resists information that threatens the story you tell about yourself. This resistance is why change feels personal. When you try to grow, the ego interprets it as an accusation. If I need to change, then who I was must have been wrong. Philosophy offers a way through this. Growth does not require self-hatred. It requires self-accuracy. You can acknowledge that a version of you was adaptive at one time and limiting now. You can thank it and let it go. Without contempt. This is ego death in its quiet form. Not dramatic dissolution, but gradual loosening. The willingness to stop defending an identity that no longer serves. In 2026, identity will be under constant pressure. Labels, archetypes, and narratives will be offered to you daily. Choose one. Be known. Be legible. Be predictable. This is seductive. A fixed identity reduces uncertainty. It gives you a script. It tells you how to feel and how to react. It also cages you. Philosophy encourages identity as direction, not definition. You orient yourself by values and practices, not by labels. You are someone who trains. Someone who studies. Someone who keeps promises. Someone who reflects. These are verbs, not nouns. Verbs allow evolution. When you cling to nouns, you defend the past. When you commit to verbs, you build the future. Ego resists this because verbs offer no refuge. You cannot hide behind intention. You either did the work or you did not. This is why transformation often feels like loss. You lose the comfort of familiar excuses. You lose the identity of potential. You lose the story that you are special but misunderstood. What replaces it is quieter. Competence. Self-respect. Grounded confidence. These do not announce themselves. They accumulate. Another lie of modern self-improvement is that becoming someone new requires destroying who you are. This creates internal violence. You do not need to wage war on yourself. You need to stop over-identifying with outdated traits. Habits are not moral failures. They are patterns that once made sense. You outgrow them by building new ones, not by shaming old ones. Philosophy frames identity as fluid but disciplined. You are not whoever you feel like being. You are whoever you repeatedly train yourself to be. This returns responsibility without cruelty. In 2026, many people will feel lost because their old identities no longer function. Their roles are unstable. Their labels are contested. Their narratives are fractured. Those who understand this part will move differently. They will not panic. They will not cling. They will build. They will treat identity as a project rather than a prison. No transformation happens in isolation from other people. And yet, no transformation survives constant negotiation with them either. This is the tension most people never resolve. They swing between dependence and withdrawal. Between overexposure and avoidance. Between needing validation and rejecting connection altogether. Philosophy offers a third position. Psychological independence. Independence does not mean emotional coldness. It means your sense of self is not outsourced. Your worth is not voted on. Your direction is not crowd-determined. This is rare because it is costly. Psychological independence requires solitude, not as absence of people, but as presence with yourself. It requires time where no one is reacting to you, validating you, correcting you, or mirroring you. Without this, you never hear your own thinking. Most people fear solitude because it feels like rejection. In reality, it is calibration. It allows you to distinguish between what you believe and what you have absorbed. In 2026, constant connectivity will make solitude feel unnatural. Even suspicious. Silence will feel empty rather than full. This is a cultural distortion. Solitude is where values are clarified. Where decisions are tested privately before they are lived publicly. Where emotional patterns are observed without performance. Without solitude, relationships become compensatory. You use people to regulate emotions you have not learned to regulate yourself. This creates dependency. Dependency does not look like closeness. It looks like anxiety. Fear of abandonment. Overinterpretation. Control disguised as care. Philosophy is direct about this. You cannot love clearly what you need desperately. This does not mean you must become invulnerable. It means you must become self-anchored. Psychological independence also reshapes boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They determine what behavior you allow access to your inner life. Without boundaries, empathy becomes exhaustion. With rigid boundaries, empathy becomes indifference. The middle path is discernment. You learn to say no without explanation. You learn to tolerate disappointment in others without trying to fix it. You learn that not every reaction deserves a response. This is maturity. Many people confuse kindness with availability. They burn out quietly and grow resentful. Philosophy reframes kindness as intentional presence, not constant access. In relationships, this changes everything. You stop performing. You stop managing impressions. You stop contorting yourself to maintain harmony at the cost of honesty. This may shrink your social circle. That is not a failure. Depth often requires subtraction. In 2026, many people will feel lonelier despite being constantly connected. The ones who suffer most will be those who never learn to be alone. Solitude teaches you to enjoy your own company. To think without broadcasting. To exist without being observed. This makes relationships cleaner. You choose people rather than cling to them. You engage out of interest, not fear. You leave when alignment is gone without needing conflict. Psychological independence also means accepting misunderstanding. Not everyone will get you. Not everyone needs to. Clarity does not require consensus. This is liberating and sobering. You trade approval for integrity. The people who remain will feel different. Calmer. Less transactional. More real. Most people waste time not because they are lazy, but because they believe they have more of it than they do. This belief is rarely conscious. It sits quietly in the background, shaping decisions. I can start later. I can fix this eventually. I have time to figure myself out. Then suddenly, years have passed. Philosophy treats time as the most serious variable in life, not in a frantic way, but in a clarifying one. You do not need more time. You need a more honest relationship with it. Mortality is not meant to terrify you. It is meant to focus you. When you remember that your time is finite, trivial concerns lose their grip. Performative anxieties fade. What remains is the question that actually matters. What is worth my limited attention? In 2026, people will be encouraged to think short-term. Trends, cycles, reactions, constant updates. This creates a shallow time horizon. People live in weeks and days, not years and decades. Transformation requires a longer view. A long view does not mean rushing. It means sequencing. It means understanding that some efforts pay off slowly but permanently, while others feel good quickly and cost you later. Philosophy teaches patience with purpose. Urgency without panic comes from knowing that time matters, but not everything deserves equal urgency. Most anxiety comes from misallocated urgency. Treating minor issues as emergencies and major life decisions as background noise. This inversion is deadly. You check your phone instantly. You postpone your health, your learning, your relationships, your character. Mortality flips this hierarchy. It asks you to invest energy where it compounds. Skills. Health. Integrity. Relationships built on truth rather than convenience. These things do not trend. They endure. Awareness of death also softens fear. When you accept that loss is inevitable, you stop clinging so tightly. You stop demanding permanence from what is temporary. You appreciate without gripping. This makes life richer, not colder. In 2026, many people will live as if they are waiting for life to begin. After the next milestone. After the next achievement. After the next version of themselves arrives. Philosophy disrupts this. There is no future self who will rescue you. there is only the person you train today. Time does not transform you. Repeated action does. This removes both hope and despair. Hope, because you stop fantasizing about change without effort. Despair, because you stop catastrophizing about wasted time. You can begin now. Not perfectly. Honestly. Urgency without panic also means learning to let things go. Not every mistake needs rumination. Not every opportunity needs pursuit. Not every conflict needs resolution. Selectivity is wisdom applied to time. You become less reactive, more intentional. Most people begin their transformation by asking a question that feels deep but often leads nowhere. What is my purpose? It sounds philosophical. It sounds mature. It also quietly delays action. Philosophy, at its most honest, reverses the order. Strength comes before meaning. Not physical strength alone, though that matters. Psychological strength. Emotional stability. The ability to endure discomfort without collapsing into avoidance or self-pity. Without strength, meaning becomes fantasy. A fragile person searching for purpose does not find direction. They find narratives that justify their weakness. They cling to identities that feel significant without requiring effort. This is why so many people feel existentially lost. They are not lacking meaning. They are lacking capacity. Capacity to focus. Capacity to endure boredom. Capacity to keep promises. Capacity to act when emotions are uncooperative. Discipline builds this capacity. Discipline is misunderstood because it has been framed as punishment, as rigidity, as self-denial. In truth, discipline is reliability. It is the ability to say, I will do this, and then do it even when no one is watching. This reliability creates self-trust. Self-trust creates calm. Calm creates clarity. Clarity makes meaning visible. Meaning does not appear to chaotic minds. In 2026, people will be encouraged to search for meaning externally. Through causes. Through movements. Through constant self-expression. This often bypasses the harder work of internal order. Philosophy insists on order first. A disciplined life is not joyless. It is quieter. Less dramatic. More grounded. Joy appears not as excitement, but as alignment. Urgency without panic also means learning to let things go. Not every mistake needs rumination. Not every opportunity needs pursuit. Not every conflict needs resolution. Selectivity is wisdom applied to time. You become less reactive, more intentional. Most people begin their transformation by asking a question that feels deep but often leads nowhere. What is my purpose? It sounds philosophical. It sounds mature. It also quietly delays action. Philosophy, at its most honest, reverses the order. Strength comes before meaning. Not physical strength alone, though that matters. Psychological strength. Emotional stability. The ability to endure discomfort without collapsing into avoidance or self-pity. Without strength, meaning becomes fantasy. A fragile person searching for purpose does not find direction. They find narratives that justify their weakness. They cling to identities that feel significant without requiring effort. This is why so many people feel existentially lost. They are not lacking meaning. They are lacking capacity. Capacity to focus. Capacity to endure boredom. Capacity to keep promises. Capacity to act when emotions are uncooperative. Discipline builds this capacity. Discipline is misunderstood because it has been framed as punishment, as rigidity, as self-denial. In truth, discipline is reliability. It is the ability to say, I will do this, and then do it even when no one is watching. This reliability creates self-trust. Self-trust creates calm. Calm creates clarity. Clarity makes meaning visible. Meaning does not appear to chaotic minds. In 2026, people will be encouraged to search for meaning externally. Through causes. Through movements. Through constant self-expression. This often bypasses the harder work of internal order. Philosophy insists on order first. A disciplined life is not joyless. It is quieter. Less dramatic. More grounded. Joy appears not as excitement, but as alignment. When your actions match your values consistently, something stabilizes inside you. You stop second-guessing. You stop narrating yourself constantly. You simply move. This is strength. Resilience is a byproduct of this process. Resilience is not toughness. It is recovery speed. The ability to return to baseline after disruption. Disciplined people recover faster because they have structure to return to. Without structure, setbacks feel personal. With structure, they feel logistical. This is why disciplined people do not romanticize suffering. They use it. They extract lessons without dwelling. They adjust without spiraling. Meaning emerges naturally from this posture. When you can rely on yourself, your life stops feeling accidental. Your choices accumulate direction. Purpose is no longer something you search for. It becomes something you enact. In 2026, many people will talk about living authentically. Fewer will talk about living responsibly. Responsibility is what makes authenticity sustainable. You cannot express yourself if you cannot regulate yourself. You cannot follow meaning if you cannot withstand effort. Strength is not glamorous. It is repetitive. Boring. Often invisible. That is why it works. Fear is not your enemy. This is difficult to accept because fear feels like obstruction. It tightens the body, narrows attention, and floods the mind with imagined outcomes. It feels like something to eliminate before you act. Philosophy offers a different understanding. Fear is a signal, not a verdict. It appears whenever something matters and uncertainty is present. If there is no fear, there is usually no risk. If there is no risk, there is rarely growth. The mistake people make is waiting for fear to disappear before they move. This never happens. Fear subsides only after action, not before it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act while fear is present, without letting fear dictate behavior. This is a trained skill. In 2026, fear will be amplified. Information spreads faster than context. Worst-case scenarios travel farther than nuanced truth. People will feel threatened by ideas, instability, and uncertainty even when their immediate lives are relatively safe. This creates chronic hesitation. Philosophy cuts through this by narrowing the frame. Instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" you ask, "What is the cost of not acting?" This is a sobering question. Most regret does not come from failure. It comes from inaction. From the quiet knowledge that you did not try when you could have. That you deferred a difficult conversation. That you stayed comfortable instead of honest. Courage interrupts this pattern. Courage is rarely dramatic. It looks like consistency. Like showing up again. Like making the call you are avoiding. Like beginning before confidence arrives. Fear often exaggerates consequences. It tells you that failure will be catastrophic. In reality, most failures are survivable and instructive. Philosophy does not deny risk. It contextualizes it. What is the worst likely outcome? What is the best likely outcome? What is the cost of delay? This rational framing weakens fear's grip. Another misunderstanding is that courage requires belief in success. It does not. It requires belief in your ability to handle the outcome. This returns us to strength. A resilient person does not need certainty. They trust their capacity to adapt. This trust reduces fear over time, not because the world becomes safer, but because you become more capable. In 2026, people will be encouraged to avoid discomfort under the banner of mental health. This is well-intentioned and often misapplied. Avoidance does not heal fear. Exposure does. This does not mean recklessness. It means gradual confrontation. Small acts of courage that compound into confidence. Philosophy frames courage as practice, not personality. You train it by acting when it is inconvenient. By speaking when silence would be easier. By choosing effort when comfort is available. Over time, fear changes texture. It becomes information rather than paralysis. There comes a point in transformation where striving becomes counterproductive. You have built responsibility. Reclaimed attention. Established an inner code. Learned to endure discomfort. Loosened identity. Cultivated independence. Honored time. Built strength. Acted in spite of fear. If you remain in constant self-monitoring after this, you fracture again. Integration is the final discipline. Integration means your philosophy no longer needs to announce itself. You stop proving. You stop optimizing. You stop narrating your growth. You simply live. This is difficult in a culture that rewards visibility. Performance is tempting. Sharing progress feels validating. Turning life into content feels like momentum. But performance leaks energy. When you perform your values, you subtly orient toward reaction again. Approval replaces alignment. The crowd re-enters the room. Philosophy at this stage becomes quiet. You do not argue as much. You do not explain yourself endlessly. You do not correct everyone. You choose when to speak and when to let silence stand. This is not withdrawal. It is selectivity. Powerful people are rarely loud internally. Their confidence is procedural, not emotional. They know what they do. They know what they avoid. They know what they stand for. They do not need to announce it. Integration also means accepting imperfection without collapse. You will still fail. You will still avoid sometimes. You will still feel fear, boredom, doubt. The difference is you no longer interpret these as signs of regression. They are weather. You return to your structure. You resume your practices. You do not dramatize the interruption. This is maturity. In 2026, many people will chase peak experiences. Breakthroughs. Transformations that feel cinematic. Integration is quieter and far more rare. It looks like a stable nervous system. Like emotional range without volatility. Like effort without resentment. You become less reactive, not because you suppress reaction, but because you see further ahead. Another sign of integration is generosity without depletion. When you are psychologically independent, you can give without keeping score. You can help without needing to be needed. You can listen without absorbing everything. Your boundaries are internal now. You do not need constant enforcement. You also begin to accept life as uneven. Some seasons are productive. Some are reflective. Some are difficult. You stop demanding constant progress. You respect rhythm. This prevents burnout. Philosophy here becomes less about improvement and more about stewardship. Caring for the life you have built. Maintaining clarity. Protecting attention. Honoring commitments. You stop chasing transformation because you are living it. Strip away the language. Strip away the structure. Strip away the idea that this is a guide at all. What remains is a person. Not an optimized version. Not a branded identity. Not someone constantly reinventing themselves. Just a person who has chosen to live deliberately in a world that rewards drift. If you live this way, something subtle but irreversible happens. Your life stops feeling hypothetical. Most people live in a constant state of prelude. Preparing to begin. Waiting to arrive. Imagining the version of themselves they will one day become. This postponement is comfortable because it avoids accountability. Living deliberately ends this. You begin to feel the weight of your days. Not as pressure, but as presence. What you do matters because you are there for it. This changes how you speak. You speak less, but more precisely. You stop exaggerating. You stop narrating intentions. You talk about what you are doing or have done. This changes how you listen. You hear what people mean, not just what they say. You notice patterns. You notice avoidance. You notice sincerity. You respond instead of reacting. This changes how you suffer. Pain no longer feels like punishment. It feels like cost. You understand that meaningful lives are not painless. They are honest about trade-offs. You stop asking why me. You ask what now. This changes how you love. You choose people rather than cling to them. You show up without performance. You accept impermanence without bitterness. You love with boundaries and depth. This changes how you work. You focus on what compounds. You reject constant stimulation. You build slowly. You accept obscurity as part of mastery. This changes how you face death. Not with dread. With sobriety. You do not rush, but you do not waste. You understand that time is not something to manage. It is something to inhabit. None of this makes you invincible. It makes you real. In 2026, the world will feel louder, faster, and more unstable. Many people will seek certainty in extremes. Ideologies. Performative identities. Endless distraction. A few will do something quieter. They will build an inner life that can withstand noise. A structure that holds even when motivation fades. A way of being that does not depend on applause. They will not look extraordinary. They will look grounded. And that will be their power. This philosophy does not promise happiness. It offers coherence. And coherence, over time, becomes something deeper than happiness. It becomes peace without passivity. Strength without aggression. Clarity without cruelty. A life that feels owned.